What's up, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, a lot of us have heard that there's a Kendrick and Clips feature going on, or a Kendrick feature on the Clips new album. And I think there was a snippet out, it had got taken down, so on and so forth. Now there's an article that came out that talks with the Clips, and they talk about the fact that apparently UMG and Def Jam wanted them to, I guess, censor and or remove this feature because of what's going on, or what had been going on with the whole battle and the lawsuit, so on and so forth. So we're going to get to this video. Shout out to Moni. She goes over the article. I'm going to play it at 1.5 speed and talk about it, which is, this is a very interesting article, man. This is and if this is true, it's interesting because then you have UMG, who's claiming to be a supporter of the free speech and letting an artistic expression, which is what they said, right? So if now they're kind of, backtracking on that, that's some bullshit, man. That definitely would be something that we would have to talk about. But let's go ahead and listen to this video and we'll go from there.
So today, y'all, let's get into this mess, cousins. Let's get into this mess. So apparently, the Clips is exposing that UMG and Def Jam tried to block a Kendrick Lamar feature from being on their new album, Like I Sort 'Em Out. It's coming out, I believe, July 11th. And the brothers, who are back together after a long hiatus, they split up. I think they split up around 2010 or whatever. Malice decided to, go his separate ways. He decided to invest in his relationship with Religion, and Pusha T set out to continue to, do his thing, rapping and all that. But the brothers are back together, and they hit up GQ Hype, where they talk about love, where they talk about hate, and what's rap been missing, including UMG trying to block this Chains and Whips feature that was supposed to include Kendrick Lamar. So if y'all remember, back in 2023, Pusha T and Malice, they walked in Pharrell's Louis Vuitton spring summer collection. And during that, they featured their new song, Chains and Whips. So the brothers, like I said, they walked in the fashion show and this song was playing. Everybody was like, what's that? What's that? Like, we need more of that, because it sounds like a fire song. And then later on down the line, we ended up finding out there's supposed to be a Kendrick Lamar verse, because someone posted it and they received a copyright strike, which included Kendrick Lamar's name in the song. So everybody's like, oh, where the fuck is the song? Like, we need this song. And Pusha T and Malice are like, we were trying to get this song out, but UMG blocked it. So let's get to this article with GQ. Again, they're talking love, hate, what rap's been missing. After more than 15 years apart, the brothers are back together with new Pharrell Williams produced album that ranks with their most potent produced product ever, and they're ready to go on record about Kanye, Drake.
Man, real quick, I don't know what they would block it for, as far as like what the content was. I don't think, since this sounds like it's post rap battle lawsuit initiation and all of that, I don't think that either of these two would say anything crazy. You know what I'm saying? They would probably talk some shit, but it wouldn't be no crazier than what Kendrick's been saying in the albums that he dropped since, right? Whether you look at them as subliminals or whatever. But then you got to think, right? If UMG is saying that they didn't want to censor Kendrick because he was part of the rap battle with Drake, then you have to have that same stance with this collaboration. Unless they was really saying some outlandish shit, I might understand them being a little tentative with the lawsuit, saying, hold on, y'all, this right here. But still, I think that still would be hypocritical. Honestly, I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. That would be hypocritical if you're going to hold Drake to that standard of, you were in a rap battle, and this is Kendrick's artistic form of expression, blah, 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 First Amendment, all of that stuff, right? So if you're going to hold them to that standard and say, we're not censoring it because this is what it is, then you have to take that same stance with this collaboration regardless, and let everything sort itself out. Because if not, then to me, it might look like an implicit admission that, something might be going on there. And I'm gonna just keep it real as far as that goes. Now, look, I don't know if all this is true or whatever. I'm just talking about optics and how people might read this and how people might see this. because you can't hold Drake to that standard and be like, look, man, this is artistic expression, freedom of speech, so on and so forth, and we ain't gonna stop it. You know, if you want to sue, you need to sue Kendrick, right? But Drake is saying, no, I'm suing y'all because y'all promoted this song, so on and so forth. Well, if you're taking that stance with him, how can you then jump in and tell Push, look, because y'all two got on collaborating with each other, who cares about the optics? So if you're going to block it just because of the optics, that makes no sense. And so I honestly, because I don't know all the facts, and we're going to hear some more here, but it does. One could look at it as there being, something looking a little crazy here, man, to say the least.
And the state of the game. Shout out to Fraser Thought for this article, and also shout out to Eric Johnson for the photography. The brothers, they're talking about various things, and the main thing, of course, that stuck out to us and why we're actually here is, if you'd expected the album last year, the brothers sympathized because they also expected the album last year. Pusha says they felt confident, they were proud in the project that they put together, especially after being apart for a while. They presented it to Def Jam, the label. They loved it. They loved what they heard, except when it came for the Kendrick Lamar guest verse on Chains and Whips, the final version of the song that Pharrell teased at his first LV runway show. Pusha says was the first to come out of their session. So this was the first song that they had for the album, the Chains and Whips song featuring Kendrick Lamar. The first song, they was ready to go. They was ready to drop it. But Def Jam had other plans for the song. They did not want them to release this song with Kendrick Lamar. So the article continued, but after the summer of the beef between the two biggest artists that resulted in a still ongoing lawsuit from Drake.
Yeah, right. So before she get to that, it says, don't be fooled by Pusha's interviews appealing for one last guest verse and the Twitter jokes that he went to a GNX tour date to physically walk Kendrick into the nearest studio. K-Dot's verse homework has been turned in for a while now. So the verse was already done. But after a summer of beef between their two biggest artists that resulted in a still ongoing lawsuit from Drake, Def Jam's parent company, UMG, blanched at the antagonistic optics of two of Drake's biggest enemies linking on wax. So from the sound of it, it don't even seem like it was anything they said. It was just them teaming up, which is even more bullshit, honestly, if this is true. Pusha calls their apprehension stupid. I don't got no reason to doubt Pusha either. Primarily because none of the bars in Kendrick's otherwise excellent verse could really be perceived as a shot or even subliminal. It does, however, contain the stellar line, "Therapy taught me how to open up. It showed me I don't give a fuck." Okay, so yeah. So far, this just sounds like, and who knows, it could be UMG's lawyers saying something like that, but it sounds to me it's more about optics than it is about content, in which case I can't support that, man. You know what I'm saying? That's a bunch of bullshit.
Other plans for the song. They did not want them to release this song with Kendrick Lamar. So the article continued, but after the summer of the beef between the two biggest artists that resulted in a still ongoing lawsuit from Drake, Def Jam's parent company, UMG, blanched at the antagonistic optics of two of Drake's biggest enemies linking on wax. Pusha calls their apprehension stupid, primarily because none of the bars in Kendrick's otherwise excellent verse could really be perceived as a shot or even a subliminal. It does, however, contain the stellar line, "Therapy taught me how to open up. It also showed me I don't give a fuck." That's a big thing. People say, oh, how can you go through Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers and then you come back and write something like Meet the Grands where you saying you wish this nigga would die? Easily. Easily. It's not hard. He showed us. It's not hard. But anyway, Pusha can barely contain his disgust, recounting how the stalemate with Def Jam played out. They wanted me to ask Kendrick to censor his verse, which of course I was never doing, real nigga. Why the fuck would Pusha T go to Kendrick Lamar and say, hey, Def Jam is asking you to censor your verse because we don't want to get Drake upset. We don't want to get into any more legal trouble. Fuck out of here. No, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. And then they wanted me to take the record off. And so after a month of not doing it, Stephen Gawley, the lawyer over there, was like, well, just drop the clips. But that can't work because I'm still there solo. But if you let us all go, ... Sure enough, Def Jam eventually agreed to release the clips and drop Pusha as a solo artist, freeing the duo up to shop for a new home with a finished clip album and plenty more music in their pockets. Ultimately, Pusha says the endeavor was gratifying. It felt good to even see how other labels were buying for the project. Now, as they teased last week with the picture in front of the labels playing insignia, they've ended up at...
And look, I don't know about all this label shit either, but I feel like there's something else, some other reason they probably wanted to let him go too. Like, since when is a label just that quick to let you go just because you won't drop a collab or not do a certain collab. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there might be a little bit more to it than that. But just looking at it on the face of things, to ask them to censor it when you're saying that you won't censor Kendrick, and that's what your fight is about, right? For the right of an artist to be able to express themselves is bullshit and it's hypocritical. So if this is true, and if this is how it went, it's a bunch of hypocritical bullshit. Now, mind you, just don't excuse what Drake is doing. None of that. I'm still not behind that. I'm still not supporting that. And it's still a bunch of bullshit. You was in a rap battle. Nigga, it don't matter. UMG was going to promote that song just like they would have promoted Family Bandits had that taken off. And that song is still up. All them joints is up. So no, I'm not with none of it on either side. Kendrick, Drake, Pusha, nobody, none of them should be censored, nor should they be asked to be censored. And their songs should be able to be promoted because nobody said nothing too crazy. It ain't Kendrick's fault. His shit hit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but if this is how this went down, and if they wanted him to censor it, then that's some bullshit. You know what I mean? That's some bullshit. And I'm glad Push stood 10 toes down and was like, nah, man, we ain't doing that.
Jay-Z's Rock Nation, where they feel fully supported and energized. I think that synergy, just in a rap sense, is going to speak volumes, Pusha T says, of the partnership. So y'all, these motherfuckers was willing to drop Pusha T in the clips just to avoid Kendrick Lamar having a feature on their album. That don't sound crazy. Like that's not mind blowing.
I don't know about that either. Who Playboy Cardi signed to? Interscope? Is that right? Is Interscope a part of UMG? I just did a Google search. Y'all let me know. It say record labels: Opium, AWGE, Interscope. Okay, so yeah, Interscope is owned by UMG. So they didn't block anything on Playboy Cardi's album. And you could interpret some of those lyrics as taking shots at Drake. So I don't know, man. This ain't really making a whole lot of sense when you think about why would they want him to censor just because of the optics of them two being together and then be willing to let him go just because of that. But you just let him team up with Playboy Cardi and say some verses on there that could sound, that could be construed as shots taken. So now looking at it that way, I'm not sure what's going on, man. I don't understand why they would take this route just with Push, unless maybe they had something personally against Push and wanted to find a reason to get rid of him. You know what I'm saying?
That's blowing my mind. Like I knew before, like I've already said before that Drake is over there throwing his weight around. Drake has consistently got what he wants from UMG when it comes to other artists. He has been able to tell them what can go and what can't go. When he was in the battle with Pusha T and the story of Adidon came out, they got that taken down. Jay-Z ain't had nothing to do with it, but they got that taken down. They got that taken down, citing some bullshit. And then when Pusha T...
Real quick, I hear what she's saying, but I'm not sure at this point Drake got that much pull over there as he did with the lawsuit and everything. I don't think UMG's really willing to cater to him like that. If this is the case, this may be more of a legal situation than anything, and UMG just might be not wanting to deal with something legally. If that's the case, I'm a little... I don't know though if this would be more about Drake and what he wants or doesn't want. I think Drake might be past that point of where he can dictate what goes on in the building now. That's just my thoughts on that. What y'all think?
If he would go and do verses with other artists, it would never be able to happen. So Drake was able to diss him on songs. Pusha T responded to the disses on songs, but the songs would never be able to reach its fulfillment and be put out. And that's because UMG was giving this nigga what the fuck he wanted. With Meek Mill, you go at it with Meek Mill, but then they're telling Meek Mill, oh no, don't say that, oh don't do that, don't put this out. But meanwhile, this nigga could do and say whatever the fuck he want. He literally tried to do the same thing with Kendrick Lamar during this battle. He wanted UMG to put a muzzle on Kendrick Lamar while he was able to put out Family Matters where he accused this man of beating his wife.
Right.
It's a pattern. We're seeing a pattern here. And I don't understand how people on the opposite side don't notice this. They brag about him being able to walk into UMG and cut the lights off and turn the lights on and do whatever it is that he wants. But they want to turn a blind eye to the fact that this man thinks he can punch people in the mouth and they're not allowed to punch him back in the mouth. So now UMG, because they're scared, they want to tell Kendrick Lamar to censor himself on the New Prince project, and Pusha T, like a real nigga, said, fuck you. No, we're not doing that. And if we can't move forward, drop us. And I don't mean just us as in the clips. No, drop me too as Pusha T. So let me go where we don't need to be censored. This is crazy. This is pathetic. This is ridiculous. This is not hip hop. This is not what this is. This is feeding the ego of a child like Karen who.
But this is all the result of fucking lobbery, right? All the result of a nigga who can't take a loss and wants to pout and try to find somebody to blame and take the route of the path of least resistance, instead of just, if you're gonna do it, just sue Kendrick. Instead of doing that, because he won't win, he tries to make up these reasons that UMG is in the wrong for it. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, this is why we are where we are. If this is how all this went down, and there's no ulterior motives from Def Jam and some other reasons and some other things going there, and they just trying to use this as an excuse, then this is the environment created by fucking Drake. This is the environment he's created, where a label would even find balls to step to an artist and ask them to censor something just because of how it might look or sound. It's crazy, man. But we can't overlook that fact of whose fault this will be. Killing hip hop. Well, thank you, Drake. Thank you, fucking asshole.
Who always gets his way, who throws dirt, ties his hand, and then calls the big JEW Lucian to fix his battles. How is this okay? How does this make sense to anybody? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. So now officially, the Clips, Pusha T and Malice are doing business with Roc Nation. Roc Nation is going to be who's going to distribute their latest project that's coming out in July.
Good shit.
And again, like this is just wild. So continuing on with the article, it says, so if they're now officially doing business with The Roc, and the Kendrick verse was never the feature Pusha T kept alluding to, holding out for. So again, that's another thing. Pusha T, dating back a while ago, he was on interviews, he was just saying like he was waiting for a verse from somebody very important, and everybody was assuming that it was Kendrick Lamar. But turns out Kendrick Lamar had already put his verse in last year. The verse is ready to go. All they got to do is upload and hit send. So Pusha T continued to allude that we're also waiting for another verse. Everybody again, was saying Kendrick Lamar, but maybe it could be Jay-Z. Maybe the verse could be from Jay-Z. I don't know. That would be fire. That's the only other option if you're waiting for a verse. Like who's so important for Pusha T to wait for a verse for? It has to be either Kendrick Lamar or Jay-Z, but they're saying no, Kendrick Lamar already turned his shit in. So yeah. That's what he said about the Kendrick Lamar situation. Ironically, if anybody deserves a speeding ticket for antagonizing other rappers on chains, it's Pusha, whose verse is not so thinly veiled response to veteran Dipset rapper Jim Jones. So Pusha T is allegedly taking shots at Jim Jones also on this verse. Honestly, I don't think Pusha T should be taking shots at Jim Jones. Jim Jones is not worth taking shots at. He's not worth taking shots at all. They continue on in the article and they talk about Drake as well. It says one foe who definitely isn't getting any more Pusha time. At press time though, Drake, the 6'5", famously bowed out of their 2018 Memorial Day weekend bout just as it was getting good, when Push forever altered the perception of diss tracks by backing his up with forensic evidence like a legal investigator. Drake infamously let things fizzle out before dropping an album with the lines like never a matter of could I, should I, as luck would have it, I've settled into my role as the good guy. But before the events of last spring, Drake had been spending a lot of time on wax, practically begging Pusha to get back in the ring. Practically in 2023 when he made a music video wearing all of classic Pharrell jewelry pieces that Pete auctioned off in swagless fashion, bragged on Travis Scott Meltdown that he would destroy those girls without a care, and claimed that he could post up in Virginia anytime on his own For All the Dogs album, where he also taunted a rapper going broke amidst a refrain of empty clips. In the years since they battled, Drake has done everything to complicate the good guy image he once gamely upheld. Dogs even sampled the Scarface bad guy clip. See, this nigga gets to go around taunting people.
Yeah,
saying crazy, what he would and wouldn't do, bragging about wearing somebody's jewelry that they auctioned off because they did not want and wanted to use the money for charity. Like, it's pathetic. Push heard the taunts, and much like when I asked him a similar question 3 years ago, he could not care less. I think after everything that has been done, I don't think there was ever anything subliminal to be said ever again in life. Not only just musically, like, bro, I actually was in Canada. I actually had a show and made it home. So I can't pay attention to none of that. I did the dance for real, not to come back and tiptoe around anything. So you would only ever engage again if he went full tilt. Man, I would only engage if I felt like it. Period. Period. I can't even be mad at that, because why are we beating around the bush? Like, nigga, say it with your chest if you got smoke for me. Say it with your chest. And you bragging about wearing a nigga's chains and melting them down, which you lied about, does nothing for me because you paid for those chains. You are a fan. You are a fan, just like you were a fan when you were peddling through eBay listings and you bought a Pusha T.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, Drake would be celebrating that. Like, dude, you didn't walk up and snatch. You ain't Debo them joints. If he put them up for sale, he didn't want them. Right? And ain't that what Pharrell even said? Like, he sold them, so like it's gone. He has no attachment to it. So how do you find cause to celebrate the purchase of items that were for sale. Like you took them or some shit. Like you deboed them. Like you walked up to him like, this is my chain, punk. No, he didn't. More corny shit, man. More corny shit. The more I listen to this, bro, I ain't even gonna lie. The more I'm just getting annoyed as hell. The more I just can't stand Drake at this point, bro. This whole thing is just corny, man. This whole thing is corny. I don't even care if Def Jam wanted just an excuse to get rid of pushing them. I don't care. The fact that they even had this to use as ammo is bullshit.
He assigned Pusha T microphone back in the day. Like, you are a fan of Pusha T, the Clips, and Pharrell Williams Drake. There's nothing you can do or nothing you can say that will change anything. The article continued earlier when discussing Def Jam clutching their pearls over Clips Kendrick record. Pusha said it all reminded him too much of 2018, weighing in on Drake and Kendrick's ongoing feud, namely Drake's decision to sue UMG over releasing Not Like Us. Pusha elaborates on what he meant. I will say this, Pusha says, admitting he's no bar-approved counselor with intimate knowledge of the suit. If Drake's adamant to have a lawsuit, it's only because he knows all the things that they did to suppress everything that was happening around Adidon. Come on, Push. Clock it, Push.
Exactly.
And the verses in the record and things that were happening back then. He alludes to instances in which he says label mechanics just muddled, if not outright, nixed the release of verses in which Pusha talked his shit next to people closely affiliated with Drake, as he did on the Rick Ross, Lil Wayne's Maybach Music Volume 3 and post-actively released Pop Smoke song with Young Thug. All
right, so let me look at that again before she move on. It says, Push said it all reminded him too much of 2018, weighing in on Drake and Kendrick's ongoing feud, namely Drake's decision to sue over releasing Not Like Us. Pusha elaborates on what he meant. I will say this, Pusha said, admitting he's no bar-approved counselor with intimate knowledge of the suit. If Drake's adamant to have a lawsuit, it's only because he knows all the things that they did to suppress everything that was happening around Adidon, and the verses and the records and things that were happening back then. Exactly. So UMG didn't want then, especially then, their golden child to get a blemish or a stain on his record or anything that would damage his perception, right? Or his public image. And so what he's saying is Drake knows what they did to suppress those things and to even suppress Push. So that's one of the reasons why Drake can sue for these reasons, because he's been, again, like we've been saying, he's been the beneficiary of what they call the machinations or machinations, basically, right? The manipulation, the things behind the scenes. So he alludes to instances in which he says label machinations muddle, if not outright nix, the release of verses in which Pusha talked his shit next to people closely affiliated with Drake. So there was more. Pusha had more with people affiliated with Drake, right? As he did on Rick Ross and Lil Wayne's. Yeah. So again, Drake knows these things because he's been, which makes it all that much more sucker shit. That's what I'm saying. People supporting this, y'all, some of y'all support this shit. Like, bro, it was all good when it was you being a beneficiary. It can't be that way, bro. Like, y'all gotta learn how to call out sucker shit for what it is. If he was cool with it being used in his favor to help him, what right do he got to sue when it's done against him? What right? That's what really pisses me off, is that people will support this bullshit. I could see if he never benefited from it, would stand against it, wasn't on that time, and knew that it was going on against him, you'll have an argument there. You'll definitely have an argument. But ain't no argument to be had, man.
Lil Wayne's Maybach Music Volume 3 and post-actively released Pop Smoke song with Young Thug. I literally just said this. I don't rate him no more, Pusha says of Drake's off-wax antics. The suing thing is bigger than some rap shit. I just don't rate you. Damn, it's like, it just kind of cheapens the art of it once we gotta have real questions about suing and litigation. Like, right. What? For this?
Right.
Come on. It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy. But let me know your thoughts, cousins, down in the comment section below.
Yeah, no, this is, look, I'll say this in conclusion. One, if it's true that Push was approached by Def Jam to censor whatever it was, according to Push, it wasn't nothing. And for them to change things or do anything, period, then that's some bullshit. And I ain't behind that. I ain't supporting that, because that's what UMG is ostensibly fighting against, right? Against that type of censorship. But I'll also say it seems like there's more to it than that. Like maybe Def Jam and them probably wanted a reason to let Push go or get rid of him or whatever, or drop him. because I don't see why, if it is really what Push said, which sound like nothing, then it don't matter these two collaborating. And if it's only based on the fact that these two were just collabing, one, that makes it even more worse, and hypocrisy even more worse, and it does not look right. So then those who are supporting Drake, I will understand their argument, but also I'll say this, is that the fact that it is supposed to be just about those two being together don't make sense, because you got Kendrick with Playboy Cardi, and it sounded like he was throwing shots on that feature. What, did it not? Right? We was all talking about it at the time, and that wasn't censored. You know what I mean? And Playboy Cardi, I think he's still with Interscope. Y'all can let me know if I'm wrong. Either way, that's part of UMG. So that's why I'm just saying, it just sounded like there was more to it than that. But whether or not they use that as a reason, it still wouldn't be cool. It still wouldn't be cool. So no, I can't support that at all. I can't support that. If you're going to stand on business and talk about free speech and artist expression, then it got to be across the board. I don't give a fuck who got together. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if there was a track with Kendrick, fucking Push, Common, who else? Joe Button. I don't care if they all got on the joint, man. Heal the World, but Drake dish version. You know what I'm saying? Put that shit out. Heal the World Drake dish version. Put that shit out, man. But yeah, nah, I can't get jiggy with that shit. Not at all. But it sounds like there's more to it, though. Sounds like there's more to it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. And do y'all think that Kendrick's still going to be on the album? You think they're still, well, because it said he left, right? He's with Rock Nation, so I don't see why there wouldn't be now, right? Again, why do you just let go of an artist like Push? Unless you wanted to anyway. Yeah. Tell me what y'all thoughts is in the comment section. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll check y'all in the next one.